Love getting the chance to talk to Joe Buck, now of ESPN. It's been a while now. It's weird. I still have to take a second and remember that Joe's now an ESPN guy. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
So do I. You're not the only one.
Well, it's funny, like tuning into the All-Star game the other night, there was a moment where I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to watch Joe. And then took me, that's not Joe. That's Joe Davis.
Joe was there. That's Joe Davis.
And he does a really good job, but I kind of missed you there. I miss hearing your voice on baseball games. I wish you were doing more of it.
Thank you. Joe's great. And I'm proud of him. He sent me a shot when he took my spot. It's not my spot. When he took the spot and I left, we talked more about doing the All-Star game really than any of it. I mean, he's a guy that filled in and took over for Vince Scully, so he can handle this with no problem. But I gave him my gigantic scorebook that I had made at Kinko's for the All-Star game. I had a specific All-Star game scorebook because there's so many players, so many people, so many stories. And I said, I want you to have it. So the other night, right before first pitch, I got a picture from him of my scorebook on his desk and his kind of prep notes on it, and then the pitcher's mound in the distance. It was really nice.
Hey, I know Brock's we're going to do a lot of football stuff today, but just because a couple minutes of baseball at the beginning. Well, Brock was out earlier this week. I got two really cool experiences. Talked to Johnny Bench on Monday and then Jim Abbott on Tuesday. So two people that were very influential to me between watching the baseball bunch as a kid and then eventually.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right. And he sang the theme, which was that was quite the interview piece for me. That was quite a moment. Have you
Hey Bunch. Yeah.
Have you spent any time around him?
I have, but it's usually been around golf. I didn't cover him. I missed that part of it. But I was around him, with my dad when I was a kid, and then I've seen him at a couple of golf courses. You just don't get any better than Johnny Bench, and I have the same experience. I mean, not just Johnny Bench, but Tommy Lasorda is the dugout wizard, and it was a great show. I've talked to many production companies over the past 25 years that have tried to revive that show. It was a great way to learn the game. It's kind of what my buddy Coach Ballgame is doing, and he's got a really big online presence. But that show was a big part of my childhood, and I think I learned things from that show that I probably wasn't even aware of that I took forward with me.
And I think why we had Johnny on is A, he was very complimentary of our big dumper, Cal Raleigh, before he even came on with us. And then B, when he did, holy smokes, man, he just could not stop raving about everything that Cal Raleigh is. When you see as a baseball guy, Joe, what he has done in this first half, what he did in the home run derby, what he did even in the All-Star game, what jumps out to Joe Buck?
I mean, just in total admiration and in awe. It's like Ohtani, the last All-Star game I did was 2021, the one in Denver, and I got to meet Ohtani before the game. They were nice enough, and specifically he was nice enough to come into a back room because I'd never met him. And I think he started the game on the mound. He did pitch, and it was during a time when he was pitching and hitting and then just went off in the home run derby. He had every reason to duck that. I think he gets kind of the responsibility of it, and I think Cal's kind of the same way. That when I met Ohtani, and I've never met Cal, I've been around athletes my whole life, and when I met him, Ohtani, I was kind of in awe. And he walked out of the room, and I was like, my God, what a great guy, and somebody who really you can tell was raised right and had every reason to be surly and tired and was not. And I get that sense with Cal. I mean, to play that position and to have that kind of raw power and to do the home run derby and then catch and then go into a second half, I mean, it's Herculean. And I don't think any of us can appreciate the kind of the toll on his body that must be going on. And yet he seems to smile right through it all and embrace his nickname, which is one of the most unique nicknames I've ever heard of.
Do you think he can sustain it?
It's going to be hard. I mean, it may be within a season, a couple. That would be a better question for Johnny to answer, somebody who's sat back there and knows what that takes. But I worked for 18 years with Tim McCarver, and he was always in awe of catchers by the end of the year. He's like, you can't feel your hands. You need your hands to hit. And so when you're getting foul tips or you're catching guys that are throwing 98, it hurts your left hand. And then you get foul tips off your right hand. And, over the course of 162 games, however many he's going to end up playing, your hands take a beating. And that's really what always stood out to me from Tim talking about it is the hands element of it. Yeah, the legs for sure. But he's obviously built for that physically. But it's what's connected to the bat that takes a beating during the course of the season. So it's going to be hard, over the course of time. That's why a guy like Craig Biggio, was such a great hitter and eventually get out from behind the plate because he's just too valuable as a hitter. And he ended up in center and then at second base, or maybe vice versa.
I mean, even Johnny did, right? I mean, Johnny Bench played a lot of third and played some outfield. Yeah, I mean, he could go out and play the field. And I never thought of the hand thing. That's interesting, especially as the game has evolved since Tim McCarver's day. I mean, they've come up with ideas to help their legs, right? They're in different stances, and they got the knee out, and they do different things. But the hands, I would think, are getting worse as more guys are throwing harder and with more sink and more of those heavy sink. Like, I'm surprised they can even catch half of them, let alone then go out and hit with their hands feeling okay.
I agree. I mean, I think it's, Tim told me that early in our time together, and it always just stuck in my mind. And I think the legs thing, too. Tim used to hate it when I said, well, he can run well for a catcher. And that was that little disclaimer at the end, or that asterisk. He'd be like, I mean, quit saying that. I'm an athlete. I could run as a catcher, and Joe Girardi could catch Jason Kendall. And it's like, okay, I got it. Stop. And then, but it was the hand thing that, and his hands, then he would hold his hands up, and he was very proud. He was a manicure guy. He was very proud of how his hands looked, but they were beat up. And he caught in different parts of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, 4 different decades. And, when you're, buttoning the collar of your shirt for a tie, it probably didn't come as easily to him later in life as it should have.
The voice, it is the voice of Joe Buck. Before football, one last non-football question. How are your hands and legs in Tahoe? Round 2, round 3, you kind of worn down, or did you kind of hang in there stamina-wise? How do you feel?
Yeah, stamina-wise was fine. I'm not completely out of shape, but they do make you play in 2 pro-ams, so I'm just not used to playing. I played some Tuesday, and then I played in pro-am Wednesday, pro-am Thursday, played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a lot of walking and all that. But it was such a blast, and it's so good for us. My wife came out, Michelle, and she works at Monday Night Football on Monday Night Countdown. And for us to be around Josh Allen and your quarterback, Sam Darnold, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and different guys that we cover during the season, to be around them is just as people, and to, have a beer with them and talk golf and talk family and talk life. And not only do you see them differently, but I think as importantly, they see you differently. It's very advantageous. I played okay golf. My driver sucked. My irons were the best irons I've ever hit in my life, and I made not one putt over 2 feet. But I finished ahead of a lot of people that I admire and that I cover and that I know are great athletes. So the old, skinny, fat, 56-year-old announcer guy, I represented myself okay.
I'm more impressed by your wife's courage. She'll come back out there and golf with you even after the incident?
Fair question. Yeah, fair question. After I blew up the inside of her left ankle with a driven golf ball, when she was doing a headstand and then did the splits to show off. But yeah, she was good. She was kind of like the conquering hero coming back, because it happened the day before I was going to leave for that event last year. Yeah. So neither one of us obviously were there. So she came back, and I told the story on the microphone in front of the crowd, and they thought I was kidding. But yeah, that did happen. And she came back, and she's a hell of a lot tougher than I am. I know that.
Well, you got to hang with Sam Darnold. I think he was in that grouping when I was watching with Baker and with Josh Allen, and those guys much more highly thought of going into this season from any list and any ranking and anything you're going to evaluate, Joe. I'm just kind of curious from your perspective of seeing Sam really emerge last year, spending time with him off of the field. What jumps out to you about Sam Darnold?
Well, he's a great guy. I think he's really mentally tough to have gone through what he went through with the Jets, and the expectations and the failure, if you want to put it on him, which I don't. It's obviously, as you guys well know, it's a team game, and it's not a one-person thing, but the wins and losses go on the head coach's record and the GM's record and the quarterback's record. And so you got to wear that around. I think he's really strong. I think his year in San Francisco was huge for him, backing up out there and working with Kyle Shanahan, who's as good as there is as an offensive teacher and schemer. And then I think being with Kevin O'Connell, who absolutely adored him last year, was obviously, the turning point, the real turning point in his career. And I think it's easy to get caught up in the last couple of games, which, we all tend to do. And especially, the shows in the mornings that overrate and underrate everybody. But I think he had an unbelievable year any way you look at it. And I think he'll bring that with him to Seattle. There's a lot to love with the organization, with the head coach, with the GM, and I think he fits right in. So I thought it was a good move by them. And hopefully he's the long-term guy there.
We were talking to Joe Buck. We were talking through sort of a sliding door scenario. Like, what if Kirk Cousins hadn't gone to Atlanta? And I think he made mention of that in his in the documentary, the quarterback documentary that's on Netflix. And he says, well, if I had known, then I probably wouldn't have gone. I was really happy in Minnesota, and then Minnesota would have still drafted McCarthy. And now all of a sudden, I don't know what happens with Sam Darnold last year. And then I wonder what the Seahawks do if Geno Smith still decides he's got to get out of here. Are they talking to Aaron Rodgers? Like, how do you think that would have gone down a sliding doors road?
Yeah, it's everything is as we know, and you guys know better than I, really, because you dissect this stuff much more than I do. I kind of like point and shoot, and wherever they tell me to go, I go, and here's who's on the team. But it is interesting, and I think Kirk Cousins is kind of the linchpin to all of that. I didn't understand it then. I still don't. Obviously, Penix, you guys know well, and having been an IU Hoosier myself, can't believe he got away from Bloomington, but he did, and he's a hell of a player. But to draft him 5 seconds after you sign somebody to whatever it was, a 3 or 4 year deal, I think 3-year deal. It's almost like I don't know. It felt like, yes, you can't have too many quarterbacks, but maybe you can. I mean, if you have two, you don't have one, that old saying. And it was almost like, well, what was that about? Why bother with that? And if I were the Steelers or, one of these teams that's the Giants, I mean, I would have tried to unload this past off season to get Kirk Cousins, because I think he's a little bit longer term of an answer, I don't know, than the guys they currently have. It seems one and done for Aaron in Pittsburgh. He's kind of hinted around at that. So they're right back in that situation again. So the sliding doors thing is fun to play, but reality is that didn't happen, and Darnold's career and bank account has been the beneficiary of it. And, for the good guys in the game and somebody who thinks got a lot of talent and it'll show this year, good for him.
Joe, you can imagine, Salk and I have been doing this for almost 17 years together, and we've come across many a radio personality that, they just are a radio personality on the air, and that doesn't turn off the air. And it's just like, wow, okay, you really are, that guy. Hanging out with those guys off the course, off the football field, right? The Sams, the Joshes, the Kelseys. Do those guys, when you talk to them, is it still all about ball? Or are they able to kind of get beyond football and be a little more, I don't know, we used to say humanize than analyze at ESPN. When you get those guys off the field, off the course, what are they like?
There's not one conversation about any of that. About football. I would be embarrassed for myself if that's all I could talk to them about. It's Baker and his wife and my wife, knowing both of them, on a different level, and having done a feature on Baker and, seeing these guys as people. Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of are drawn there because we love golf. And we're all trying to beat this course that I have so much respect for Pavelski and Smoltz, who I love, and Romo and Fish and those guys that pile up points, because I'm telling you, those greens are crazy fast, and you get above them and you start not trying to make birdie putts, which I had plenty of cracks at birdie, but you start trying to not make a bogey, and you can't play golf like that. And that's just inexperience and lack of talent. But I think we're all there trying to do the same thing. And so, you talk to the hockey guys, TJ Oshie, who played here in St. Louis, or Matthew Tkachuk, who's from St. Louis. There's a lot of ties that bind. I think that kind of makes it fun to be around them. Now, when the season starts and we're there week one and I'm talking to J.J. McCarthy or Caleb Williams, it's going to be pretty much all about football. But when I'm out there, these are interesting people that I admire, and, ask questions of me about broadcasting or about Michelle's ankle or kids or whatever it might be. And that's the fun of it. The football is like last on the list, and by me is never brought up. I would think they would turn and walk away if I started talking to them about, hey, who do you guys have as backup tight end this year? And what are you looking for with your defensive front? Do you guys switch into a 3-4? Like I would throw up if I were them, and I would be embarrassed if I said it.
Well, it's funny. Aaron Rodgers is probably the name that I and many other people would just gravitate to as you talk about that situation, because what we are seeing over the last couple of years really feels, from my perspective anyway, without knowing him and just getting that sort of filtered view, it's a tough listen. It's a tough watch. It feels very about him and I'm in charge, and the coaches, I make the coaches wait for me and all of that. Does that come across in person, or is he a different person when you're around him?
He's great in person. He's on, everybody wants to do these corny Mount Rushmore lists, but he's on the list. Actually, both Green Bay quarterbacks are on the list, and Brock, from production meetings. I think the smart ones use production meetings not only to kind of tell you what's going on, but maybe kind of win the jury over a little bit. And he's phenomenal. Like, he tells you everything. And I think he's learned over the years that he can trust us. Brett Favre was the other one like that. I mean, it was like by the end, it's like, Brett, we got to go. We got dinner. Like, stop talking. And Aaron is just that way. He's very funny. He's very smart. He and I both guest hosted Jeopardy, so we have that in common. I love talking to him because it's a different conversation than we would have with other quarterbacks, and I think he's very well aware of perception, his perception, the perception of him. I think he's at times calculated. I think he doesn't say anything that he hasn't thought out. I think he's got an agenda. You can like it or not like it, but I think, I find him fascinating for many different reasons. I don't always agree with everything. In fact, I don't agree with a lot of it. But I think he's at least at a point in his life where he's going to say how he feels. If you like him, great. If you don't, he doesn't care. And I believe that. He's like Barkley in that way. Barkley legitimately doesn't care what anybody thinks of him. And consequently, everybody loves him because you can see that. And everybody else is so protected. It's like Rory McIlroy in golf. A lot of guys won't say what he says because then you got to answer for it for the next 2 months, or you got to hear about it online, or you're a baby or whatever. You're a whiner. But everybody's got an opinion. He's earned it. He's been in there. He's done it. And I think that applies to Aaron and Barkley and everybody on the list. You don't have to love him, but I think he's more interesting than most.
Hey, Joe, last question for me, and thank you, as always, for taking so much time with us, especially in the off season. And you'll have your Fox seminar here in a couple weeks, or excuse me,
ESPN.
Fox
ESPN,
yeah, you'll have your
Brock.
ESPN at I don't
Screwed
know
it
if
up,
you guys,
too.
We don't even have one, I don't think.
No, you don't. No.
They don't make Joe
Well, we only
go
have
to
one
that.
crew. It's like, well, we've
Yeah,
got,
that's true.
we've got a second crew that does some games.
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's
as far
true.
as having the typical Fox seminar, I miss those things.
Well, you and Troy got to work on your chemistry, obviously, right? I mean, like, you guys have to really get to know each
be
other.
your number 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking at the schedule, and as you kind of shift into a little football mode, I'm just kind of curious from your 24 years with Troy and all your years in the booth, biggest step year 1 to year 2 with these head coaches. Mike Macdonald last year, you started the segment saying, hey, man, I really liked John. I really liked that organization. Just about every national voice does. Like year 1 to year 2, if these head coaches take that stride, and if Mike's going to take that step here, what are some of the key ingredients over time that you've witnessed with that?
I just think it's comfort. I think you don't know until you know, and you don't know all that's brought in to a head coach and all that's on their plate with media responsibilities, with running a team, with, that's going to be the situation in Chicago too, with, somebody who's running offense. And I talked to Jared Goff, and it's like, okay, I'm anxious to see how he is in front of the whole team. I'm anxious to see if you don't put up 45 points, but you win a game, what the mood's like and what the message is like. And I think that applies to Mike or anybody. You all of a sudden you go from worrying about defense to worrying about an entire organization, let alone offense and defense. So I think there's going to be a familiarity, a comfort factor that will let him bloom and blossom even more. I think he's really smart. I think he's in charge. I think guys respect him because they can tell how hard he works. Things defensively that players excited. Sean did that and has always done that offensively. Those offensive, Darren Sproles, I'm sure used to bed knowing that he was up, devising ways to get him open, and Drew Brees the same way. And I think that's what Mike does defensively, and now it's got to apply to the whole team. So they'll get things ironed out, and it's a process which is boring to talk about, but it's real. You have to get comfortable. And you look at Conan O'Brien, look at Jimmy Fallon, the first weeks of their late night shows, and then compare it to where they were in year 2. It's comfort and being able. When you're comfortable, then you can be at your best. When you're prepared and you feel like you're not scrambling to get to the next, whatever it is, press conference or meeting or film session, whatever it is, I think then you can show who you really are. And I think that's what'll come in year 2 and would for anybody in any walk of life, whether they're a head coach or they're a CPA.
Well, I wonder if some of those talk show hosts are on your mind because of what you're doing next week. How cool is this? Do you even know this, Brock?
Oh, yeah.
You know what Joe's doing next week? Good Morning America, July 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
Yes.
How about that? What's the excitement level? What's the nerve? Where are the nerves at?
I'm excited. I think the nerves are not there because I'm not looking for a job. I think a lot of people go there and they go, oh, well, if I knock this out of the park, they're going to be calling me to be the next host of, and they don't want me, I'm sure, and I just wouldn't fit into my life. So to be able to go there and have fun, and Michael's going to be on the set, and he'll be there all 3 days, which is great because I consider him a really good friend, and Robin Roberts is absolutely amazing. And getting, I don't know if George is going to be there or not, but I think I'm sitting in that chair. So hopefully nothing serious breaks out because then we're really screwed. But I'm going to have fun with it. And I'm really not nervous about it yet. I'm sure I will be when the lights come on, but it's about kind of being yourself and showing your personality and having fun that way instead of getting X's and O's right and scores and touchdowns and home runs and all that other stuff. So it'll be a challenge, but it'll be fun.
Well, I love that part of the Joe Buck evolution over your career and getting to know more about who you are, not just from having you on the show over the years, but seeing you on and hearing you on all the other shows and Dan Patrick or Howard Stern or wherever else. It's been really cool getting to know who you are. And thanks for spending so much time with us. We really do appreciate it.
No, I love talking to you guys. So anytime, I appreciate it. It's good to hear you.
All right, there you go. There is Joe Buck, Brock, now of ESPN. Don't screw that up.